All right. And then in the chat, I am going to put the link to the slide deck again one more time for anyone who just joined. We will go through this, and there are some links in there. So if you'd like to follow along, that's where they will be. Katrina, I will have Megan Schulte send those to you or send you the file that they're in so that you have access to all of them. And I believe they're also linked in this slide too, potentially on the next slide. So we'll have show you where those are, and I'll make sure we update as we record. All right, so we'll get started. Susan, I just see you join. I'll put the link to the deck in there one more time. So the session today is Star 360 for returning users. So hopefully you have been kind of introduced to Star 360 so that you're moving on to the next step. So just a reminder, if you did those using and understanding for STAR for 3 through 8 or high school, you're in a good spot. If you haven't, no problem at all, but you're more than welcome to sign up for those too if you want to get more info before this session. And then we also have progress monitoring with STAR CBM and STAR Custom that are really great to attend later on when you are ready to move on even further. And then on this slide, you can see we have the sign up for your live sessions. And then those previously recorded sessions are there as well. And I will make sure that this one that's being recorded gets into there so that if you want to come back and take a look at this another time, that will be there. All right, so just some introductions. Since it's a small group, I'd love to hear from you. Just introducing yourself, what you're looking forward to this school year, maybe the grade or the role that you are so that I know kind of how to tailor this today as well. And while you're doing that, hopefully you all know who Megan Schulte is. She is your STAR 360 assessment specialist through Chicago Public Schools. She is gone today, so you'll just have me. Natalie is the other district consultant for CPS as well through Renaissance. So between the sessions you attend, you'll either see her or myself. My name is Michelle, and I am also a district consultant for Chicago Public Schools. So go ahead in the chat and let me know who you are, what do you teach, and what are you excited about for this school year? And while I'm waiting for some answers, I am going to link that deck one more time in case anyone did not get that link. Perfect. Thanks, Bridget. Interventionist and coach, good to know that for sure. Awesome. Another interventionist. This is good to know. Amazing, amazing. Awesome. These are great. Go ahead and keep adding your role in there. It just helps as I go through to kind of tailor to your role to give you some examples and things. So just if you want to continue to add that in there, that would be awesome. All right. So just our typical session norms for today, being open to the unexpected takeaway, allowing ourselves the luxury of just doing one thing right now, honor the diversity in this space, make space for all voices, staying solution oriented and student centered, and stories staying in and solutions going out. We always like to go over the CPS and Department of Student Assessment MTSS mission, which is the Department of Student Assessment MTSS empowers all members of the CPS community to use high quality evidence of student learning to ensure students' unique needs are met and all students thrive. We also like to go over your CPS instructional core vision to educate for equity. The CPS instructional core centers on identity, community, and relationships. I'll give you about 30 more seconds here just to kind of read through the rest of that so you can have that core vision in your mind as we go through this session today. And I noticed we had a few others join. I am putting that slide deck in the chat so you can follow along if you would like. All right. And then we also like to throw in there our Renaissance mission. And this is to accelerate learning for all children and adults of all ability levels and ethnic and social backgrounds worldwide. So together with CPS, we like to make sure all of these sessions are rooted in these missions to ensure students are growing as well as all of you. All right, so these are the learning objectives for today. So once we're done, you will have done all of these things and feel comfortable doing these things, reviewing key STAR resources and reflecting on current practices, learning how STAR 360 screening, diagnostic, and progress monitoring assessments can work together to support student learning. And then you'll be able to identify next step commitments for your practice. So here's our agenda today, if you want to take a quick look through that. And we're going to start with reviewing how STAR 360 fits within a balanced assessment system. So just a reminder of what student assessment is, the process of reasoning from evidence of student learning, and we ensure that all high quality assessments connect to curriculum and instruction, informs good decision making, and creates good opportunities for all students. Here is that balanced assessment system. So just noting the three different sections here, we've got our large scale assessments at the top, screening, benchmark, diagnostic, and progress monitoring assessments in the middle, and then classroom assessments at the bottom. Making sure we're measuring the depth and breadth of student learning, monitoring their progress towards career and college readiness, producing actionable data to help you plan in your instruction, but also making sure you're including multiple measures of responses to the needs of students, making sure you're getting a lot of different data points. But today we're going to focus on that middle section, that screening and benchmark assessment section, so that you can help understand your students' general skill and ability levels, whether your students are meeting established benchmarks, and then which students may need additional supports, interventions, or even enrichment. So here is that data cycle. We have STAR Spanish, STAR Reading, and STAR Math. Those are those universal screening assessments. And then we've got our STAR CBM and STAR Custom for your diagnostic and progress monitoring tools for both math and reading as well. And then just another quick reminder, here is your testing windows here. Your beginning of the year, middle of the year, and end of the year screenings will be those STAR Math and STAR Reading. And then those green circles in the middle is where you could administer those STAR CBM and STAR Custom assessments to progress monitor and see how students are doing throughout the year. And again, there are sessions on that focused just on that. So if you want to get to that section as well, make sure you sign up for those in the future. All right, so now we're going to take some time to explore key STAR resources and reflect how they fit within your practice. What do we already know about STAR 360? We know that we have those 3 STAR assessments, STAR Math, STAR Reading, and STAR Spanish. And when we get those results, we like to use the STAR record book, STAR screening report, instructional planning reports to help see how students did and guide what we do next. And then the scores that we received are those scaled scores, percentile ranks, and benchmarks. Anna, there you go. For STAR CBM, remember it's generally for reading interventions for grades 3 through 6 and math interventions for 3rd grade. Again, it can be used in other grades as well, but that is what it is normed for. They are 1-minute assessments. You administer them in a 1-to-1 setting and definitely useful for those literacy and numeracy skills. And then we have STAR Custom, those reading interventions for grades 7 through 12 and math interventions for grades 4 through 12. You get to assess specific reading and math skills with pre-made items and tests. You can focus on all skills found in the learning progressions that we've talked about in the past, and you will have the ability to create items and tests yourself. Yes, Susan, they do ingest into Branching Minds. And if you have more questions about that, Mark and Megan are your go-tos. If you do need their emails, I can give those to you at the end of today's session. But yes, everything will feed into Branching Minds. Great question. All right, so why should we use STAR 360 for our universal screening? Well, at your classroom level, it will help to inform Tier 1 instruction, identify students who may need additional support, and then analyze that student progress and growth over time. And then at the school network and district level, it helps to analyze the program effectiveness and drive system-wide change. All right, so these are the STAR screening assessment key reports. So if you want to view your class-wide data, It's that STAR screening report, and that's the screenshot on the left where you can see the colored bars that indicate each individual student and what level they are at. You can also use the STAR record book, which is the screenshot on the right, to compare scores and analyze movement between testing windows. And then, of course, you can use both the STAR screening report and STAR record book to identify students who may need additional diagnostic assessments. We are going to dive into these reports as well as the one on the next slide a little bit deeper in the next few minutes. So just wanted to kind of get your mind back into these reports before we dive into them. And then the third report that we also suggest using is that instructional planning report. And just a reminder, there are two. There's one for the whole class, and then there's one for individual students. If you've gone to one of the using and understanding sessions, you've probably seen us go over the class planning report, but you can also take some time to look into the individual student one as well. But this is how you can scaffold that grade level tier 1 curriculum using this. And then there's also linked in here the CPS tier 1 STAR analysis protocol. So if you want to kind of see how this can play out within CPS, you can look at that link as well. And this report will help to identify focus skills in math and reading that the students may need more focus on, and help you to plan for your just-in-time supports. So what we're going to do is we are going to do kind of a little bit of a hands-on activity where you can choose how you want to dive into these reports. On this slide, this is the CPS demo login info, and I will also put that in the chat. But if you want to log into your own STAR account, that's absolutely fine as well. Go ahead and get logged in and just sit for a second, and I'll go through all of the directions on what we're going to do. So up to you if you want to log in through this demo site, which I have linked in the chat, and I will link once more in case anyone didn't get it. Or you can log into your own STAR account as well. And I'll give you guys about a minute to do that. All right, so if you have just gotten on, we're logging into STAR, whether you want to do the demo site login or your own STAR account, totally your call. All right, and I'm going to start to go over a little bit about what we're going to do here. So in the chat, I am also putting the workspace sign up. So we're trying something a little bit new with these sessions where you get to work in pairs or groups or alone if you prefer. That's absolutely fine as well. To talk through these reports, to see how others are using them, and then to answer the 3 questions at the bottom. So what you can do is click on the link I put in the chat or click on sign up for a breakout here. And you will be able to sign up if you want to work in groups or if you want to work in partners. There are meeting links there for you. At the top of the document, you'll see this link, and I want to make sure that's good. Okay, so you'll be able to come back to this session when you are done. Again, if you want to work alone, totally fine. During this time, I will be muted. It will be quiet. But if you'd like to work with a partner in a group, you can just type your name into the document, and then you'll be able to join that Google Meet when time is ready. So what you're going to be doing, what is linked on this page, is the STAR screening report, the STAR record book, and then the instructional planning report and CPS's tier 1 STAR analysis protocol. You are going to look through these 3 with your partner, alone, however you want to do it, for about 10 minutes. And then there is a Jamboard, which I will also link in the chat here. And it is also linked on that page as well. Once you have looked through these, there are 3 questions. The first is, which of these reports have you used in the past, or were any of them unfamiliar? The second question is, of these 3 reports listed, which report was most impactful for your practice? And how did you use that report to support your students? And then the third question is, what information from the reports was most helpful to you or least helpful? So you're just going to kind of dive through these, really look through them and see which ones you've either used in the past and have worked well, or which ones are new to you and what information was most helpful. Do we have any questions about how to go about this? All right. So then if you have signed up to do a partner or a group, you may head to that Google Meet. Make sure you are back here at 12:26. So we will be moving on at that point. If you want to work alone, you can just stay here. I will mute myself and you can start looking through those reports. The chat is open if you have any questions as you're looking through these reports. So again, those of you who are moving to another Google Meet, come back here at 12:26 and we'll move on. The rest of you, if you'd like to stay, I will mute now, but please add any questions to the chat. All right. So here in the chat, and Charles, I see your question. Ebony, there you go. There are the demo site instructions for logging in. And then Charles, which one are you looking at right now? Which report?
I'm familiar with most of them. We'll say that I'll start again with the STAR screening report.
Okay. I'm going to go through it with you here in a second just to see if we're good. So up at, all right. So when you click on STAR screening report, you choose your subject. When you scroll down, there's a screening period there. Do you have any past screening periods available to you, Charles?
It says BOY, MOY, NOY, but I'm assuming that's for this 2023, 2024 school year. And I was
Yep,
wondering,
possibly.
could I go back?
Go ahead and try BOY or MOY. See if you get any data from last year. If you don't, Charles, I'll reach out to our CPSIT team member and see if she can tell me why you're not seeing the past data.
Got it.
Go ahead and try it and see if anything pops up. But I think you're correct in assuming that it's for this school year.
That's correct. It's still showing.
This school year?
Yep, this school year.
All right. Give me 1 second while you guys are looking through those reports. I will message her right now and see if I can get you an answer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Charles, I got an answer for you. So the STAR screening report will only show this current school year. But if you do get your students' names, if you click on the student name, you'll be able to see their past data.
I'm sorry, Michelle. Can you say it one more time?
Yes, the STAR screening report will only show data for this school year for your BOY, MOI, and EOI. But if
Gotcha.
you do run that report, once you have your students' names on there, you can click on individual student names and see their data from past years.
Okay, so I have to put in the individual students' names as opposed
Correct. Yep.
Okay, got you. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Sorry to be annoying. One more thing, Charles, for you for sure. If anyone else is interested, if you want to see multiple data points from this year and or last year, a report that they are suggesting you look at is the STAR test record report. It could be run for all time or a custom date range. So if there's a lot of students, you could run it for a specific school year and select all time. So that's called STAR test record report.
Thank you.
Yep. We have about 3 more minutes. So if you're kind of feeling like you're done looking at these reports, remember the Jamboard is there and you can start posting your thoughts there. Got about 30 seconds left, but Bridget, I did want to kind of expand on your question here. She asked, do you recommend the benchmark to be district or state when looking at the instructional planning report? CPS does suggest using that district benchmark to look through your data and see where they are category wise. State is an option there for you. It's, will always be there if you want to run that report with the state benchmark as well. But district is what you should be focusing on when you use that report. All right, it is 12:26, so I'd like to take a quick look at the Jamboard. So if you haven't added anything, go ahead and add it now. I will share that screen as well. And may just have some follow-up questions if anyone wants to speak up or just write in the chat. Either one is totally fine. So the first question was, which reports have you used in the past or were any unfamiliar? I am not surprised to see that, STAR Record Book and STAR Screening Report have been used in the past. Definitely the two key reports we usually start with. But I do like the comment that somebody said they haven't seen or used this Tier 1 protocol report that CPS has created. So if you haven't taken a look at that, it is nice. It's laid out for you kind of with steps of how you can use the different data points you have. Has anyone here used the instructional planning report at all yet? All right, that I think will be a good one this coming school year. It's a nice report to just give you some specific skills for math and reading that your students really need to focus on. So I think that will be a nice one as the year goes on.
Can I ask a question about
Yes.
the instructional planning?
Absolutely.
Is there a way, is there a report that groups students in a class by their deficit skills?
So yes and no. There is if you happen to use Nearpod. If you do not, you can always create groups, Anna. You can manage your own groups of students and look at data for those specific students if you'd like. If you start to see a common trend of students in your class that are typically around the same level, you can create a group for those specific students and then just run reports on them as well. If that's something you think would be helpful, I can show you how to do that when we're done here in a second.
Okay. And then is there a way for the instructional planning, the class report, is there a way to merge multiple classes into one report?
Yeah. So then again, I would create a group for those multiple classes. So once I show you how you can create groups, then you can make any groups you want of whichever students you want, and then you can run the report for that group.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So I'll go through this Jamboard and then I'll show you all how you can make a group and then we'll get back into the slides. All right, so awesome. STAR Screening Report again, parent report for sure. Very important to get them involved as well. All right, so then the second one, we don't have any answers, but if you want to put it in the chat or unmute, you can. Of those three reports that were listed, which reports were most impactful to your practice? So if you did use these reports last year, was there one that really, really helped you the most? And if you want to just write it in the Google Meet chat, you're more than welcome to. If you want to unmute, you can. If no one's used them, no problem. We'll see this year as the year goes on, which reports do become most impactful. Yeah, Anna, I agree. That instructional planning report is pretty awesome. Record book, easy to get that quick overview as well. And Bridget, that's what I typically tell teachers to have open as students are testing so that you can see those results come in right away as well. And you get a quick glance at what's going on. Thanks. All right. And then that last question, what information from the reports was most helpful to you? I'm going to make this one a little bigger just so I can read it. All right, so would like to learn more about how to streamline measuring growth for students. We are using STAR 360 to assess if students make 1+ years growth, but SGP isn't very clear. So that's something we can go over in another session as well, SGP. But the biggest thing with SGP is they have to have tested, I believe, the whole year, 3 different testing windows for you to get that SGP to be created. So if your school is just starting to use this year, SGP may not be helpful to you until next year. So that's something you can look into, but there are sessions we can dive deeper into that as well if that's something you are interested in. And Katrina, I will look into something that I can send you. I'll write your name down and have either myself or Megan email you over something in this deck that we're going through. There is a test administration manual. If that's kind of what you're talking about, then yes, that is linked in there. Perfect.
Can I ask a clarifying question about
Yes.
the SGP? This was my sticky note.
Yes.
So we used Star 360 last year, as well as sort of the year prior, but it was definitely a lot more spotty. But I was under the impression, from what I tried to do my own research, was that if they scored like a 50 with that SGP, that they like made a year's progress. Is that not accurate?
No, I think your thinking is absolutely correct there. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. The only thing, some people, we don't get into this so much because you guys haven't used STAR a ton yet. Like a lot of the high schools, for example, are just starting to use it for the very first time.
Mhm.
And students have to take the test for so many, times for actually this to be created. But if you have students who have already done that, then yeah, you are good. You have the data, you have that SGP number, and you are correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Let's see. Katrina, I would ask either your testing lead at your school or reach out to Megan. I did put her email in the chat, and it will also be at the end of the slides as well. But I would see what your school or the district prefers you to be using. I do believe STAR Custom and STAR CBM are what they will want you to be using. And we do have sessions on those as well to kind of dive into what those exactly are. But again, I would reach out to somebody in your school just to clarify that that's what they want you to be doing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Great questions. All right, real quick, I am going to log into my demo account so that I can show you guys how to create these groups so that you can do that if it is helpful to you. So let me share this tab. All right, so what I did is I went into the STAR record book, and up at the top, there's a tab called Manage Groups. All you have to do is click on Manage Groups and then create new groups. And you can search by grade levels that you're attached to or rosters, or you can click on students and search individual student names and add them to your group as well. You can choose what subject this is for. Again, I would keep that benchmark as district. And then you can click Create Groups. And then of those students, you can add multiple groups there as well. So you can choose here how you want to group them. You will see their latest scaled score and their latest percentile rank as well. So Anna, that may be helpful to you as well too, if you want to group students based on how they did on the very first beginning of the year assessment, or however you want to take a look at it. But you can choose all of the names that you want to see here, whether it's one roster or you want to add individual student names. You can create tons of groups. You can easily come in and change them anytime as well. Any questions on how to create these groups here? All right, I'm just going to click cancel because this is a demo account, but you would click save and your groups would show up right here. And you could go in and take a look at them. And then when you go back into the record book, if you wanted to run a report for just those students, right here it says class or group, then you would see your group listed here, whatever you named it. And you'd be able to choose your group instead of a specific class or roster. All right, I'm going to jump back into the deck. I'll take a second just to see if there's any other questions. I love how you're using the chat, so continue to do that if you'd like to. But I don't want to move ahead too quickly if there's anything else you want to go over. All right. So now we will model how STAR 360 screening, diagnostic, and progress monitoring assessments can work together to support student learning using the CPS STAR flowchart. So some of you may have seen this before. If not, I am going to put the CPS flowchart in the chat for you. It does get a little bigger when you open the link I just sent you rather than what you're seeing on my screen. But it's basically a flowchart helping you to decide which direction do I go. Once I get my screening data, and of course using other sources of classroom data, if they do need additional support, your students, where do I go next? So this flow chart will help you with that. And we are actually going to go through a scenario together right now as well to see how we can use this flow chart to determine where to go next. And then something to note, the flow chart, it does have guidance for both math and reading. All right, so we're going to model how to use this flow chart so that you can make sure this is integrating perfectly to support your students. So here is our case study. We have Alyssa Stevens. Alyssa is a 3rd grade student, so remember her grade level. She's a 3rd grade student at Gary Elementary School. Alyssa's teacher is concerned that she is falling behind in reading. She has provided the team with the following information. Her beginning of the year STAR reading assessment placed her on watch, which is that blue category. Alyssa's middle of the year STAR reading assessment placed her in the intervention benchmark category, which is that yellow. She is scoring below mastery on formative and summative classroom assessments in reading. And the teacher finds that Alyssa regularly needs small group support in reinforcing whole group word study instruction and grade level reading strategies. So just to summarize, beginning of the year assessment, she was on watch. Middle of the year assessment, she moved to intervention. She's scoring below mastery on formative and summative classroom assessments. And she needs small group instruction to reinforce whole group reading, word study, and grade level reading strategies. So how can we use the STAR 360 suite to support Alyssa in reading? We're going to go through this problem-solving process together. And here is that problem-solving process. So first, identify the problem. Second, develop the plan. Third, implement the plan. 4, monitor the plan. And 5, evaluate and adjust as needed. So first, we're going to identify the problem. So what do we know about Alyssa so far? On the middle of the year reading screener, Alyssa is in the intervention category. So we know that her scaled score was 865 and her percentile rank was in the 10th percentile, which put her in intervention. Go ahead and take a look at this part of the screen and look at this part of the flow chart while I look at Susan's question here. Yeah, Susan, I would still use this for those younger kids as well. If you have any other specific questions about the younger ones, I would reach out to Megan and just see if they have any other guidance for this. But yeah, I would use this for any of the students that you're going to be assessing. Perfect, Susan. Awesome. All right, so what this flow chart is saying, you start with that STAR screener, whether that's STAR reading or STAR math. Then you use that data to inform embedded supports. And then for a student that you have flagged as needing support, we're going to go through that next step now. So of course, we see Alyssa is in the intervention category. So we're flagging her as someone who needs support. So what do we do next? Alyssa's teacher has concerns about her ability to access grade level reading curriculum. She is scoring below mastery on those classroom formative and summative assessments, and her teacher suspects that there is a fluency gap. So should we collect additional information about Alyssa's reading skills to determine whether a tiered intervention is appropriate? If so, why? So all we know right now is that she's not mastering those formative and summative assessments, and we know her STAR reading scores, and we've taken in some classroom data. Are there any other additional information that we should try to figure out? Oh, Jennifer, great question here. Yes, I believe there is an accommodation for Braille options. I would definitely reach out to your testing lead, Jennifer, at your school and see if they have utilized that in the past. If you have any questions specifically about it, let me know and I can find some help articles for you as well. But definitely talk to your testing lead, or honestly, even Megan too, if they've used this in the past, to see how they've administered it for a student who is blind. That's a great question. And Jennifer, I'll make a note too, to see if I can find anything extra for you while you're waiting for that response. All right, so just to move us along here so we don't run out of time, something that I may look into with Alyssa is, is she an English language learner? Anything in that sorts as well that we may want to take a look at on top of what we already know. And Susan, yeah, I will link that at the end. So Susan, don't leave right away at the end. I will send you that link through the chat once we're done with this. It's a great question. All right. So here we go. Here's where the next part of the flow chart is. So based on our data triangulation, we do decide to collect more information about Alyssa's reading skills using a STAR diagnostic assessment. So in the flow chart, in the pink reddish part, there are 3 options here. First is the universal screener score below 852. If it is, then you would administer a STAR CBM. In the middle is the universal screener score below, 852 or higher, and you suspect a fluency skill gap. Then you administer STAR CBM, starting with that passage oral reading. Or is the universal screener score 852 and higher, and you do not suspect a fluency gap, then you can go ahead and use STAR Custom. So in this situation, just one of the reminders, Alyssa scored an 856, and her teacher does suspect a fluency gap. So knowing those 2 pieces of information, are we going to use STAR CBM or STAR Custom? Go ahead and type your answer in the chat. So again, you're going to use those pink or reddish squares to kind of determine, okay, where did Alyssa fall? And then that gray square below will tell you what to do next. And Alyssa had an 856, and the teacher does suspect a fluency gap. Susan, you are right. We are going to start with STAR CBM, the passage oral reading, at the estimated instructional level that Alyssa is in. So we're going to start there. So we're going to start by giving Alyssa that 3rd grade passage oral reading to see how she does with that. So again, just a reminder, that was the classroom data, and we did decide CBM using that passage oral reading. And there you go in the middle as well, just so you can see what that looks like. Because Alyssa's score is greater than 852, and we suspect that fluency gap, we are going to go through that passage oral reading at Alyssa's instructional level. So we have determined that Alyssa's instructional reading level is a 2.4, which puts her at a 2nd grade reading level. So because of that, we are actually going to give her the grade 2 passage oral reading. So we discovered that. We're going to give that to her. And because she meets the passage oral reading benchmark in this situation for grade 2, what would I do next? So in that yellow square, they give us our options. So if the student does not meet the grade level POR benchmark, administer another POR or additional CBMs. Or if they do meet the grade level, you could start to administer custom. So if Alyssa meets the passage oral reading benchmark for grade 2, what should I do next? And just a hint, remember what grade level Alyssa is actually in. So Bridget, I like where your head is at. So we gave her that 2nd grade POR, and we've determined that she did meet that. So now that she met the passage oral reading benchmark for grade 2, what do we do next? And Anna, I can see why you would say that, but we're trying to trick you here. So if you remember from the beginning, Alyssa is in 3rd grade. So because she's in 3rd grade, we want to get her to pass or meet that passage oral reading benchmark for grade 3. Her instructional reading level was at grade 2, so we started with grade 2. Now that she met that, we're going to want to give her that grade 3 passage oral reading to see if she passes that. All right, because she's a 3rd grade student, again, we want to know if she can meet that 3rd grade benchmark. So now we assess Alyssa using the passage oral reading at grade 3 level. Alyssa does not meet the grade level benchmark for passage oral reading grade 3. So if she does not meet the grade level benchmark, now what do we do? So in that yellow box, she does not meet the grade level for POR benchmark. What do we do now? Should we give her another CBM? Anyone anyone has any thoughts, they can add it into the chat, or you can just unmute as well. So at this point, we know Alyssa did meet the grade 2 benchmark POR, but she did not meet the 3rd grade level POR. So do we give her another CBM or do we move on to STAR Custom? All right, so in this situation, we don't want to move on yet. Yeah, Anna, we want to do an additional STAR CBM because she did not meet grade level. So we may want to collect additional information to determine why this is the case. This will now help us see, does Alyssa need support with another skill that contributes to fluency? So on this slide, these are the orders in which you give these STAR CBMs, and you kind of move backwards. So on the right side, we started with that passage oral reading. We did grade 2, which she met, and then we did grade 3, which she did not. So now that she did not meet, we're going to move to the left and administer that expressive nonsense words. This is going to help us kind of see where that gap lies with Alyssa. If she doesn't meet that, then we go to the left again. If she doesn't meet that, we go to the left again. And we keep going all the way to the left until we see that she meets it. And now we know where that gap came from. So when then administered the expressive nonsense words at the grade 1 level, Alyssa meets that grade 1 benchmark. So now we know that the gap is between this expressive nonsense word and just that passage oral reading. So based on Alyssa's STAR CBM data and classroom data, the team decides that Alyssa would benefit from a tiered intervention targeting foundational literacy skills. Alyssa receives Tier 2 intervention support with a small group of students 3 times a week for 6 weeks. Tier 2 interventions will be delivered outside the 120-minute literacy block. I want to pause for a second just to make sure we all understand the process we went through with Alyssa. Are there any questions of why we decided to do what we did through that flow chart? Or did it all make sense of why we chose to do the passage oral reading for grade 2 and then grade 3, and then continue those CBMs to figure out where that gap was missing? Perfect. If anything pops up, please stop me or add it in the chat and we can go through any of your questions. But now we're going to move on to monitoring our plan. So Alyssa receives that Tier 2 intervention support with that small group of students 3 times a week for 6 weeks. Alyssa's teacher then administers the STAR CBM expressive nonsense words bi-weekly to monitor her progress. After 6 weeks, Alyssa meets her goal of the grade 2 benchmark of expressive nonsense words. So that's a way to progress monitor using STAR CBM based on the data you got from your universal screener using that STAR flowchart. I would definitely bookmark the flowchart. It's extremely helpful, especially since most of you are interventionists. It's a great visual to kind of see, okay, my student scored this level. Should I move on to a STAR CBM or STAR Custom? And if you're not quite sure what those STAR CBMs and STAR Customs are or look like, definitely sign up for one of those sessions so we can go into those deeper as well. Yes, Anna, I believe they are. I think the only thing, and double check with Megan or Mark or your testing lead at your school, the only thing that won't digest directly are the groups that you create in STAR. You will then have to go into Branching Minds and create those groups yourselves as well. But all of that data will come over once you create that group in Branching Minds. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. So your regular rosters, yes, all of that data will come over. You do have to select that you are looking at STAR CBM data within Branching Minds, and then you'll get all that data. But if you create a specific group for yourself, go into Branching Minds and create that specific group there as well. That won't come over. All right, we're going to start to wrap this up. If there's any other questions, they've been incredible questions so far. Keep them in the chat or unmute if you need to. All right, so we're going to summarize our takeaways and identify some next step commitments for your practice. So the biggest takeaways from today. First, STAR 360 is a suite of screening, benchmarking, diagnostic, and progress monitoring tools. STAR screening assessments can help identify students who may benefit from additional support and accelerate Tier 1 classroom learning. And then after receiving screening assessment data and triangulating with other sources of classroom data, that CPS flowchart can help educators use STAR CBM and or STAR Custom diagnostically to determine whether a student would benefit from a tier 2 or tier 3 intervention. So most of the time you'll want to get that data from the screener and then go to STAR BM or CBM, or STAR Custom to determine, should I move this student into a tier 2 or tier 3 intervention? So we'll take about 7 minutes here. And again, totally your call if you just kind of want to do this on your own. But I want you to think about your next step for STAR to support student learning. A, B, and C are some ideas for you here. So A, do you want to review your screening results using the STAR screening report or record book and start very basic? B, do you want to start to use the tier 1 protocol to accelerate classroom learning before your next unit? C, do you want to identify students who may need additional support and follow that CPS STAR flowchart to administer a diagnostic assessment? Or is there another goal you have for yourself when it comes to STAR? We looked at 3 different reports. Do you want to start to use those a little bit more? I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes to think about your next step here and start to add them to the chat. If I start to see more of your next steps being added to the chat, then we'll stop before 5 minutes and discuss them. Anna, yes, I do have that flow chart. I will link it again in the chat for you. There you go. And again, you're just kind of thinking about what your next step for STAR will be to support your students' learning. What is something that you want to try to do in the next few weeks here with this beginning of the year testing window that's open? And you can use A, B, or C if you want to write that letter in the chat and let me know that's your goal. That's totally fine. Those are just some ideas for you as well. So Cheryl's saying she definitely wants to start to review that screening results using the STAR screening report and record book. You'll start to get your data soon now that the testing window's opening. So that'll be a good start at the beginning of the year to use those. Thank you, Cheryl. Any other goals that any of you are thinking about when it comes to STAR? I know we talked a little bit earlier about using those instructional planning reports too. A lot of you said you've never used those before. I think that'll be really helpful. Anna, using the flow chart, absolutely. That is extremely helpful. Megan and the team created that. And every time we do a session, everyone brings up how awesome it is to just kind of go through that flow chart and easily decide what they should do next. 2 of you said C. Yep, absolutely. Flow chart again. I think that is extremely helpful and very, easy to read to figure out what to do next. Thank you for sharing. And then last thing too, before we go through some resources here, what is one more thing you want to learn more about? What is something maybe that we talked about today or something that was mentioned or you've heard about that you want to learn more about? Anything anyone's kind of curious about, wanting to learn more about when it comes to STAR? One thing could be those CBMs and STAR Custom. Tracking growth, Anna, absolutely. And I like how you've had questions about how that goes into branching minds as well. How to better analyze the data, absolutely. So we have sessions, a new one coming out for Tier 1 protocol. So that might be something some of you may be interested in. And then again, too, those focused STAR CBM and STAR Custom sessions, I think would be extremely helpful as well. So definitely take a look at the schedule and I'll link it in the chat once we get to the end here. If you want to sign up for anything else that can give you some more of that information, how to look at all of these things. Awesome. Thank you for giving me some answers. All right. So somebody had asked earlier about the testing administration manual. This is linked in here. definitely read through all of the tests that you are going to be giving. So if you are administering math and reading, definitely read through the manual for both math and reading. Make sure you read it ahead of time so you know exactly what to do for each test. We have a STAR 360 FAQ linked here as well. This is CPS focused. So this is every question that teachers in the past who have used this have asked. So this is linked here if you want to take a look at the answers to those questions. I'm sure you may have some that are already listed there. And then finally, here is your sign up for a live session, which I will link in a second as well. Previously recorded sessions are linked there as well. And then we do have office hours every Monday from 8 to 9. So if you just have a specific question that you want me or Natalie to go through with you, come join us. It can be 2 minutes. It can be 25 minutes. It can be as long as you want for that hour. And we are adding more dates as well. I believe Thursdays during this beginning of the year testing window, we will also have office hours. So definitely take a look at the calendar and come join us anytime you need a question answered. We're here to help you. And then finally, any other resources? We've got your CPS service desk. You've got the phone number. You've got our email at the bottom there, cps.consultants@renaissance.com. So if you have a question for Natalie or myself specific to CPS and STAR, go ahead and email that email anytime, and we'll get back to you with that answer. And then before I link the other decks and things that you guys had questions about, I am going to put the exit ticket link in the chat. This helps to keep track of attendance and to get feedback. We love to hear what you guys want more of, or what went well, or what could be changed, so we make sure that these sessions are useful for you. So I am going to link a few things here, but go ahead. That last one I just linked is the exit ticket. The next one coming in is the calendar of sessions if you'd like to sign up for others. And then somebody had asked for the initial deck for the lower grades. I just linked that in there as well. That is our kind of our preview to STAR 360. And definitely to point them to the previously recorded sessions as well. They are being updated this year, but there are some older ones in there as well that will go through this. So if they need help kind of looking through anything or getting a basic understanding of STAR, that would be a good place to start as well. Were there any other questions or links anybody needed? All right. Well, we are ending 30 minutes early. We've been giving this about 90 minutes because when there are more participants, there's a little bit more breakout room action. But today, since we didn't have too many, we got this done in an hour. So hopefully you have 30 minutes back to work on other things, as I'm sure the beginning of the year is very busy. But if you'd like to stick around and ask questions, or you want me to give you some sort of link to anything, please stay. I'll hang out for the next few minutes. But if you are good and you're feeling excited about all this, you are free to leave. Thank you, Bridget. You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Hi, Michelle. I have a question. We didn't do a whole lot with STAR 360 last year. Like I feel like my learning was more around iReady and implementing that for the primary grades. So I am not familiar, and therefore my teachers are not familiar with CBM like at all.
Yeah.
But I know that it's all digital, correct?
Yes.
Like
yes.
everything. Okay. So the student logs in through their portal, they go to Renaissance,
Right. You can choose to do paper and pencil if you want.
Sure.
So if that is something your teachers prefer, like there are 3 options. 1, the teacher and the student can both be on computers. 2, the teacher can be on a computer and a student on paper. Or
Mhm.
3, they both can be on paper. And it will ask them when they go to administer what way are they doing it. And then they'll have papers to print off if they choose to have paper. But if they're both on the computer, then yeah, they assign it to the student.
Okay, so they first have to assign it.
Yes. And
Okay.
then on the student screen on the right side, so if you've seen the student screen before on the left, you'll see star reading, star early literacy, star math.
Yeah.
And on the right, you'll have that box for assignments. That's where the CBM will pop up for them.
Okay.
Yep. And then they can click into it and go along with the teacher's directions. And there'll be something the teacher can read to the student on the computer if that's what they choose to do. And then that score will pop up right away in that record book for CBM.
Okay. So like we have a 5th grader who scored at a second grade level on the screener. Then the teacher assigns specifically to that student CBM. It's not like, do they have to identify the grade level that they're starting at?
They could. So what you would want to start with is that passage oral reading. And if they test it into 2nd grade, that's what I would start with. And if they meet 2nd grade, give them 3rd grade. If they meet 3rd grade, give them 4th. Go all the way up to 5th. Yep.
So each time the teacher assigns a new one.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
At the grade level. Correct. And I would start, if that's the instructional level that the student tested at a 2nd grade, I would start with 2nd grade.
Okay.
And if they meet it, move to 3rd grade and keep going until they pass 5th grade, since that's a 5th grade student. If they don't meet that 2nd grade passage oral reading assessment, then that's when you go to the left on that chart in the record book.
Yep.
You go to those expressive
On the
nonsense
next.
words. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Yes. And tell them too, there is a STAR CBM focused session. You can send them the calendar. And if you or them want to come, if it's available.
I'm signed up for it, but
Awesome.
I'm hoping to share. I would like to try this with a couple students and
Yeah.
share ahead of time and see how it goes. So okay.
Perfect. Well, I'm glad you're coming.
Thank you.
All right. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Anyone else have any other questions? If you're feeling good, you are more than welcome to leave.
Hey, Michelle, this
Yeah.
is Jennifer McHugh. I asked you about the student who is blind.
Yes. Let's see.
So, hi.
Hey, that's a great question.
He is just learning Braille. He is not
Okay.
proficient in Braille.
Okay.
So that's why I'm glad I got to talk to you, because I'm not sure what to do from there.
You know, and I would definitely reach out to Megan. You said you emailed her, or was that Susan?
I
Might have been
think,
Susan.
yeah, it's probably Susan.
Okay. So I let me give you her email again. I would
Okay.
reach out to her just to see if there was anyone else in CPS or anywhere that has had this situation before.
Okay.
I'm going to put that's her email in the chat right now. I
Thank
would be
you.
afraid to tell you exactly what to do.
Right.
In case your school or the district has some sort of protocol in place. I mean, in my head, are you able to read it aloud or get the audio for some of them and, get the answers that way for now? That may be where they point you in that direction.
Okay.
But I would definitely talk to them just to make sure that you're following protocol for CPS in your school and not listening to me.
No, that's okay. No, it's just some direction. He took an assessment in the spring, and had his, we have a vision and hearing person who comes out, and she read it to him.
Okay.
And so, but I think it was a different assessment. So I just want to make sure.
I bet that would probably be the same situation. I'm also going to put this as a help article about CBM. If you do end up using those with him, if needed, how you can use it with Braille once he gets to that point, once he learns, and so that at least you have this here for if that time comes. But yeah, I would assume they'd probably say either turn on the audio and then have him tell you his answer, or somebody read it aloud like you've done in the past.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I
Thank
would reach
you.
out to somebody at the school or Megan to get started and just make sure that's all good.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you for the resources.
Of course. Reach out if you need anything.
All right. Thanks.
All right. You're welcome. Bye.